Sometimes the person you trust the most is the one who teaches you what betrayal really tastes like. I never imagined that 10 days after saying I do, I'd be staring at the shattered pieces of a promise he broke without hesitation. What I found that night didn't just break my marriage, it ignited something fierce and unshakable inside me. This isn't just a story about heartbreak, it's a story about a woman who refused to stay broken. And if you've ever been betrayed, you're gonna feel every word of what happened next. 10 days. That's all it took for the man I married to show me exactly who he really was. And the truth wasn't just ugly, it was insulting, like he thought I was too naive or too blindly in love to notice the filth he tried to hide behind late-night work shifts and phone calls taken in the other room. But what he didn't know was that a woman always feels when something is wrong, even before she admits it to herself. And I had been feeling the shift in him like a cold draft slipping through a cracked window long before the night I finally caught him. The signs were small at first, the kind of things you brush off when you want your marriage to work. Him forgetting details he'd normally remember, being oddly protective of his phone when he used to leave it lying around without a care, changing his cologne on day 4 of our marriage because he said he wanted something fresh, even though he'd worn the same scent for 3 years. And the way he'd kiss me goodnight with lips that felt rehearsed instead of real. But the thing about lies is that they make people sloppy, and Daniel was no exception. His carelessness became my clarity. It was a Thursday evening when the truth finally slapped me across the face. He texted, "Working late again, don't wait up." And I stared at the message with a heaviness that felt like a warning from my own soul, like something inside me already knew that tonight was different, that tonight I wasn't going to swallow my doubts just to keep the peace. I walked into the kitchen trying to distract myself with chores, but the universe must have been done watching me play the fool because that's when his tablet lit up on the counter with a notification he forgot to silence. I didn't touch it at first, I just stared at the glowing screen as if the truth was daring me to look. The preview alone was enough to make my stomach flip. "I miss you already, same time tomorrow?" No name saved, just a number, but the tone was intimate, familiar, practiced. My pulse hammered in my ears so loudly I could barely think. I grabbed the tablet, and for a second my fingers hovered over the screen, as if opening it would destroy the last remaining piece of the life I thought I had. Then anger surged up inside me, hot and electric, overpowering every fear, and I unlocked it using the passcode he arrogantly believed I'd never have a reason to use. The messages exploded onto the screen like a punch to the gut. They weren't careful, they weren't hidden in codes or disguises, they were bold. They were frequent, they were disgusting. I scrolled through thread after thread of flirtation and intimacy that should have belonged to me but had been handed off like a cheap gift to a woman whose face I'd never seen but already despised. Pictures I never took, words he never said to me, promises he made to her that he should have whispered to me during our honeymoon. The more I read, the shakier my hands became, not from heartbreak, but from rage so fierce it felt cleansing, like fire burning through everything I'd once believed. In 10 days, he managed to turn sacred vows into trash. 10 days. I didn't cry, not one tear, and maybe that's what told me everything I needed to know about how far my heart had already drifted from the man I married. He hadn't just cheated on me, he had underestimated me, taken my loyalty for weakness, assumed I would cling to our vows while he broke every one. I put the tablet down exactly where I found it, not because I cared about hiding what I'd seen, but because I wanted him to walk through that door and meet the version of me his betrayal had forged, a version he wouldn't be able to lie to, gaslight, or charm his way out of. I sat there at the kitchen island, my arms crossed, my jaw tight, rehearsing the words I thought I would scream at him, imagining the way he'd look when his fantasy imploded. Waiting felt like torture, every second stretching out like a taut wire ready to snap. When I finally heard his car in the driveway, something inside me clicked into place. Not broken, not devastated, but sharpened, like anger had carved me into someone stronger, someone done begging for the bare minimum. He walked through the door carrying the same fake exhaustion he'd been performing for days, running a hand through his hair like he'd been in meetings all day instead of between someone else's sheets. "You're still up?" he asked, and the audacity of his casual tone nearly made me laugh. I didn't answer. I just watched him, and the way his smile faltered told me he felt the shift in the air. "What's wrong?" he tried again, softening his voice, but it sounded fake now, like an actor flubbing a line. "Where were you, Daniel?" I asked, my tone colder than I expected. He blinked, the faintest twitch in his jaw betraying his panic, and he said, "I told you I had to stay late. We're working on a new what?" I cut in. "A new position? A new woman? A new lie?" His face went pale. For a moment, he looked like he might try to bluff his way through it, but I didn't give him the chance. I slid the tablet toward him and watched the blood drain from his face as the screen showed the preview of the message that exposed everything. "I saw it," I said simply. "All of it." Silence. Heavy, suffocating silence. He opened his mouth like he wanted to deny it, but the defeat in his shoulders told me even he knew there was no way out. "It didn't mean anything," he finally muttered, and that sentence, those 4 pathetic words, were the final blow. I felt something inside me break, but not in the way he hoped. It wasn't my heart. It was the last tie that tethered me to a man who didn't deserve me. "It meant enough for you to break our marriage in 10 days, I snapped. "It meant enough for you to send her pictures while you were still posting wedding photos with me. It meant enough for you to think I wouldn't find out." He tried to reach for me, but I stepped back like his touch was poison, because it was. His betrayal wasn't an accident. It was a choice, repeated, deliberate, shameless. "You don't get to touch me," I said, my voice trembling with anger that tasted like freedom. "You don't get to lie to me again. You don't get to pretend this is a mistake you can fix." He looked at me with wide, panicked eyes, as if suddenly realizing the consequences of the game he thought he could play without losing. "Please," he whispered, but I wasn't listening anymore. I was done. Even in the chaos of that moment, I felt something powerful rising inside me, something fierce, something unstoppable. The realization that losing him wasn't a loss. It was liberation. He had already chosen someone else, and now, finally, I was choosing me. The moment I walked past him and headed toward our bedroom, I felt his panic following me like a shadow, thick and desperate, clinging to my heels as if his sudden fear of losing me could erase the filth he'd drowned our marriage in. But I didn't stop. Not when he called my name, not when he tried to explain, not when he begged under his breath like a man who only realized the value of a diamond when it slipped out of his careless fingers. Instead, I kept walking, each step fueled by a rage that no longer felt chaotic, but controlled, direct, almost empowering, like every ounce of betrayal he fed me had transformed into armor. When I opened the closet and pulled out my suitcase, I heard his breath hitch, the pathetic crack in his voice when he said, "You're not leaving," revealing more about him than any message ever could. Because it wasn't love in his voice, it was entitlement, the disbelief of a man who genuinely thought I would never have the strength to walk away, as if my heart existed solely to tolerate the damage he inflicted. "Watch me," I said, grabbing clothes with a calmness that alarmed even me, because it wasn't the frantic packing of a broken wife, it was the collected, deliberate movement of a woman reclaiming her power. "We can talk about this," he said, stepping closer, but I snapped back, "We could talk before you spent the night with someone else." The words hit him hard. I saw it in the way his posture crumpled, but guilt was a luxury he no longer had the right to express. As I packed, my mind rewound through every moment of the last 10 days. Our wedding night, when he whispered promises into my ear, promises he shattered within days. The morning he left early, claiming an emergency meeting when he was really meeting her for breakfast. The evening he brushed off my kiss because he was exhausted, when in reality he had already given his affection to someone else. The realization didn't break me anymore. It enraged me, strengthening my resolve. He kept babbling excuses behind me, pathetic things like, it was a mistake, it didn't mean anything, I don't know what I was thinking. But every word felt like an insult, an afterthought he crafted only because he got caught. If I hadn't seen those messages, he would have continued without hesitation, offering her the passion that was supposed to be ours. You were married for 10 days, I said, zipping the suitcase with enough force to punctuate every syllable. 10 days, Daniel. Most people don't even finish writing their thank you cards in 10 days, but you managed to toss your vows out like trash. He flinched, and for the first time, I realized he wasn't used to being held accountable. In our entire relationship, I had let too many small things slide, brushed off too many questionable behaviors, forgiven too many lapses in effort, because I wanted us to work, because I believed in us, because I believed in him. But that was over now. Belief without evidence is just hope, and hope without respect is just self-destruction. When I tried to walk past him with my suitcase, he blocked the doorway, his eyes desperate, his voice trembling with the sudden awareness that consequences were real. "Please," he said, "we can fix this. Don't throw everything away." The laugh that escaped me was bitter, humorless. "Throw everything away, Daniel. You set it on fire, not me." The truth hung in the air between us, sharp and cold. He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again, like a man drowning in regret he created with his own hands. "I'll change," he whispered, and I shook my head, stepping closer so he could see the way my anger had evolved into something steady, something unstoppable. "You didn't think about changing when you were with her," I said. "You didn't think about me. You didn't think about us. You didn't think about anything except yourself." I saw something shift behind his eyes. Realization, maybe, or fear, or the early stages of understanding that cheating wasn't a moment of weakness, it was a pattern of character, and his character had been revealed. "I love you," he said suddenly, the words tumbling out as if they could magically glue the broken pieces back together. But I didn't feel them. They landed flat, empty, meaningless. Love is action, not excuse. Love is loyalty, not convenience. Love is showing up every day even when it's hard, not collapsing into someone else's arms because it's easy. "If this is your version of love," I said, "I don't want it." My voice didn't crack, my hands didn't shake, and I think that terrified him more than anything else because he finally saw that he couldn't manipulate me back into place. He stepped aside when I pushed past him, but he followed me to the front door. Like a shadow grasping for its light. "We can rebuild," he insisted, voice cracking. "We can go to therapy. I'll do anything. Just don't leave." But leaving wasn't the thing that scared him. Losing control was. Because cheating wasn't just betrayal, it was arrogance. The arrogance of assuming he'd always have access to me. The arrogance of believing I'd forgive the unforgivable. The arrogance of thinking my self-worth could be bent until it broke. Not anymore. I grabbed my car keys and looked him dead in the eyes, letting him see the truth, that the woman he married 10 days ago was gone, replaced by someone fiercer, someone wiser, someone done. "You lost me," I said quietly but firmly, "the moment you chose her." And then I stepped outside into the cool night air, the door closing behind me like a final echoing period on the chapter he destroyed. As I walked to my car, I expected to feel heartbreak, devastation, collapse, but instead I felt something else entirely: release, freedom, strength, the beginning of a version of myself he was never worthy of. And as I drove away, leaving behind the house that had already begun to feel haunted by broken vows, I realized for the first time that the end of our marriage wasn't the end of me, it was the rebirth of everything he tried to dim. I didn't know where I was going yet, or what the next chapter would look like, but one thing was crystal clear. He had taken my trust, but he would never take my power again. Driving away from the house that once felt like the center of my world should have shattered me, but instead it felt like I was peeling off a suffocating layer of skin I hadn't realized was weighing me down. The further the distance grew between me and Daniel, the lighter my chest became, as if every mile unhooked another claw of betrayal he had buried into my heart. I didn't have a destination, only a direction. Away, far away from the lies, the manipulation, the arrogance of a man who thought I would crumble just because he expected me to. I drove until the city lights blurred into streaks, until the road hummed beneath my tires like a heartbeat I hadn't listened to in years, my own. But when I finally pulled into an empty parking lot near the waterfront, the adrenaline that had fueled me began to settle, leaving behind a stillness that was both painful and cleansing. I leaned my head against the steering wheel and exhaled, not because I was defeated, but because I was letting go of the poison he injected into my life. The waves crashed in the distance, steady and unapologetic, like a reminder that even after the most violent storms, the ocean doesn't stop moving, and neither would I. Part of me expected the tears to come then, the collapse, the trembling heartbreak movies always show, but nothing came. No sobbing, no shaking, no overwhelming grief, just anger. And beneath that anger, strength. A dangerous, rising, electrifying strength that made me feel more alive than I had in months. I wasn't broken, I was waking up. After a while, I grabbed my phone and opened the messages I had ignored since leaving the house. 8 missed calls, 5 voicemails, and a cluster of
desperate texts from Daniel. Please come home. We can work through this. Don't throw us away. I'm sorry. It was a mistake. Answer me, please. All the messages of a man who only realized what he had when he lost it. I stared at the screen, emotionless, then blocked his number with the same ease he took when he erased my trust. It wasn't revenge, it was self-respect. The night air outside felt cold when I stepped out of the car, but the cold didn't bite, it revived me. I walked down to the edge of the water and sat on a bench overlooking the dark waves, letting the rhythm of the tide soothe the fury still burning under my skin. For the first time since the wedding, I could breathe. I didn't know how long I sat there, watching the waves crash and retreat, but eventually my mind drifted to the beginning, the real beginning, long before the wedding, long before the lies, long before the version of him I fell in love with started to fade. Had the red flags always been there, just faint enough for me to ignore? The thought stung, not with regret, but with clarity. There were moments I brushed off, the message he deleted because it was just work, the night he came home smelling like a perfume I'd never owned, his sudden defensiveness over nothing, the way he flirted with attention from other women like he needed validation more than he needed loyalty. I excused things because I loved him. I excused things because I believed he loved me too. But loving someone shouldn't require shrinking yourself into someone blind. And I had been blind, until I wasn't. The waves continued their roaring rhythm, and a strange peace settled over me. The kind of peace that comes when you finally accept the truth you've been avoiding. I deserved more than what he gave me. I deserved honesty. I deserved respect. I deserved the kind of love that didn't need secret passwords and late-night lies to survive. As I sat there, my phone buzzed again, this time with a message from my sister, Mia. "Are you okay? Daniel just called Mom, freaking out." I almost laughed. Of course he went running to my family once I refused to play along with his guilt-fueled performance. I typed back, "I'm safe. I'll explain soon." She replied instantly, "Tell me where you are. I'll come." And for the first time that night, the tightness in my chest eased just a little. I wasn't alone. I hadn't lost everything. In fact, the only thing I'd lost was something that had been dragging me down. I gave her the location, and within 20 minutes, her car pulled up beside mine. She didn't ask questions at first. She just wrapped her arms around me, and for a moment, the walls I'd built so fiercely began to soften. "He doesn't deserve you," she said quietly, and hearing someone else say the words I had been thinking felt like validation I didn't know I needed. We sat in her car as I told her everything. How I found the messages, how he tried to explain, how he begged, how I left. The more I spoke, the more real it became, and yet the more empowered I felt. When I finished, she shook her head with a fury that rivaled my own. 10 days? 10? That man is delusional if he thinks you'd stay after that. I smirked, a small, bitter smile. He thought I wouldn't leave. He thought I forgive him. Mia scoffed. Because he mistook your kindness for weakness. Exactly, and that mistake would cost him everything. We decided to stay at a hotel for the night, one with bright lights, crisp sheets, and no ghosts of broken promises lingering in the air. The moment I walked into the room, the scent of clean linen felt like a reset button for my soul. I stood in front of the mirror, staring at my reflection. Same face, same eyes, same woman. But something was different now. Something in the way I stood, the way I breathed, the way my eyes didn't carry the weight of guilt or self-doubt. I wasn't asking myself what I had done wrong. I wasn't questioning my worth. I wasn't replaying the betrayal, trying to figure out how I could have prevented it. The only person who could have prevented this was the man who committed it, and he didn't. I showered, letting the hot water melt away the last traces of him, the scent of his cologne, the ache in my muscles from holding back anger, the exhaustion of pretending our marriage was something sacred while he treated it like an optional commitment. When I came out, Mia had already ordered food, poured 2 glasses of wine, and insisted we toast. "To your freedom," she said, raising her glass. "To my freedom," I echoed. And with the first sip, I felt something inside me settle, a decision, a direction, a certainty. I wasn't going back, not to him, not to the lie of our marriage, not to the version of myself that tolerated crumbs while giving him the whole feast. That night, I slept deeply, dreamlessly, peacefully, and when I woke up the next morning, it wasn't sorrow that greeted me, it was determination. Daniel had taken enough from me. Now it was my turn to take everything back. The morning sunlight streaming into the hotel room felt like a rebirth, not gentle or soft, but bold and unapologetic, the kind of light that exposes everything hidden in the shadows. And as I stood by the window watching the world wake up, I realized I wasn't waking up as a wife anymore. I was waking up as a woman who survived betrayal without letting it poison her spirit. I was waking up as someone who finally understood that strength isn't always loud or dramatic. Sometimes it's the quiet decision to never allow someone to hurt you twice. My phone buzzed again, but this time it wasn't Daniel. He was blocked, erased, irrelevant. It was my mother asking what had happened because Daniel had apparently shown up at my parents' house at sunrise, crying on their porch like he was the victim in some tragic love story he had written in his own mind. I could almost imagine the scene, him kneeling there, dramatic and desperate, hoping to convince them that he was just a man who made a mistake, hoping they would pressure me to come back, hoping someone, anyone, would take his side, because even he knew he'd lost the only voice that mattered, mine. I texted my mother back with a calmness that surprised her. "I'll explain everything when I get home. Don't let him inside." And then, after a moment, "I'm okay." Because I was, more okay than I had been in months. When Mia and I checked out of the hotel, she insisted on driving, in case I was still shaky, but the truth was, I felt steady. Steady in my decision, steady in my anger, steady in my worth. When we arrived at my parents' house, Daniel's car was still parked outside like a threat that had already lost its power. He stood up when he saw me, his face a mixture of exhaustion, guilt, and the kind of fear that only comes when a man realizes he pushed someone too far. "Please," he said the moment I stepped out of the car, but the words slid off me like water hitting steel. I didn't slow down. I didn't look at him. I walked right past him and into the house, because giving him access to my emotions was a privilege he no longer deserved. Inside, my mother rushed to me, her face full of worry, but the moment she saw the certainty in my eyes, something in her relaxed. She knew I wasn't breaking. I was choosing myself. We sat in the living room as I told my parents everything, every detail from the messages I found to the lies he told,
And with every sentence, my father's jaw tightened, my mother's eyes narrowed, and I saw something shift in them too. The realization that the man they welcomed into our family had disrespected not just me, but all of us. He came here crying, my father said, but he didn't tell us the truth. Of course he didn't. Cheaters rarely do. When I finished talking, my mother took my hands and said, "You're doing the right thing." And hearing her, someone who believed so deeply in marriage, say those words cemented my decision even more. Outside, Daniel knocked on the door again, but this time my father answered, stepping out just enough to block the doorway. I couldn't hear every word, but I heard enough. "She doesn't want to talk to you. You need to leave." Daniel's voice cracked as he tried to argue, but there was no arguing with a father protecting his daughter. After a few minutes, his footsteps faded, his car engine started, and the sound of him driving away felt like the final severing of whatever tie had remained. In the days that followed, I began the messy, empowering process of reclaiming my life, filing for annulment, returning wedding gifts, unfollowing his friends, deleting photos, and untangling myself from every piece of him that still clung to my world. People talk about heartbreak like it's a storm that drenches you in sadness, but for me, it was fire, purifying, cleansing, burning away everything false. Some friends were shocked when they heard the truth. Some said things like, "But the marriage was so new," as if time was the measurement of betrayal, as if cheating after 10 months or 10 years would somehow hurt more than cheating after 10 days. Others asked whether I felt embarrassed, whether I regretted marrying him. But embarrassment is for mistakes you're responsible for, and I refused to carry shame for a betrayal he committed. Regret? No, because regret implies that the story should have never happened, and as painful as it was, his betrayal taught me something I needed to learn, that I am stronger than I ever gave myself credit for, and he was weaker than I ever realized. One afternoon, as I was clearing out the last of my things from the house we shared, my books, my favorite mug, the blanket my grandmother crocheted for me, I found our wedding album sitting on the coffee table. I opened it, flipping through pages filled with smiles that weren't real anymore, promises that were dead within days, and a version of myself so hopeful it almost hurt to look at her. But instead of sadness, I felt gratitude toward that woman, because she believed in love enough to risk everything, and she walked away when love was replaced with betrayal. That kind of courage is rare. I closed the album, placed it back on the table, and left it behind. It belonged to the past, to a marriage that didn't deserve to be preserved. When I walked out of that house for the final time, locking the door behind me, I felt a surge of power so intense it nearly brought tears to my eyes. Not tears of grief, but tears of rebirth. This chapter of my life had ended, but it wasn't the end of me. It was the beginning of a new version of myself, stronger, wiser, more alive. Over the next weeks, I rediscovered pieces of myself I'd tucked away to make space for him, my hobbies, my friendships, my goals, my dreams. I signed up for a kickboxing class because I wanted to feel my strength physically, not just emotionally. I took long walks alone and didn't feel lonely. I bought myself flowers without waiting for anyone else to. I looked in the mirror and saw not a woman abandoned or betrayed, but a woman who had walked through fire and come out forged. And then, one evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting gold across the sky, I realized something beautiful. I wasn't angry anymore. Not because he deserved forgiveness, he didn't, but because my anger had served its purpose. It pushed me to leave. It protected me. It
Woke me up. And now that I had rebuilt myself, I didn't need it anymore. Letting go of anger wasn't letting him off the hook, it was releasing the last weight he had over me. Cheating didn't end my life. It ended a lie. And in its place, I built something real, myself. Strong, fierce, whole, and absolutely unwilling to ever shrink again for a man who couldn't meet me where I stood. My story didn't end with betrayal, it began with it. In the months that followed, life unfolded in a way I never expected.
not as a series of painful echoes from the past, but as a steady rise into a version of myself I hadn't known existed. A version built not from the remnants of betrayal, but from the strength I carved out of surviving it. At first, the world felt unfamiliar, as if I had stepped into someone else's life, one where I didn't have to check someone's location, wonder if promises were real, or question whether affection was genuine. And the silence of living alone was shockingly peaceful. Not lonely, but grounding, like my soul finally had room to breathe without being choked by doubt. I got a new apartment, not big, not luxurious, but mine, and decorating it became a small revolution. Every plant, every framed photo, every candle representing a piece of myself reclaimed. Even choosing the couch felt symbolic because I picked one in a bold emerald green, a color Daniel always said was too loud, which of course meant it was perfect. I started focusing on my career again, staying late by choice, not because I was scared of coming home to tension or lies. My coworkers noticed the shift in me, the confidence, the fire, the way I spoke up more and apologized less. My boss even asked if I wanted to lead a new project, and the old me might have hesitated, doubted myself, looked for Daniel's approval, but the new me said yes before the question fully landed. I wasn't rebuilding my life, I was building a new one entirely. There were still moments when my mind drifted back to him, not in longing, not even in sadness, but in astonishment, the kind that made me shake my head and laugh at the audacity of a man who truly believed he could betray me and still keep me, like loyalty was something he was entitled to regardless of how little he gave. Sometimes, I wondered if he ever thought about what he lost, if he woke up in the morning reaching for someone who wasn't there, if he looked at the empty space beside him and finally understood how deeply he underestimated me. I didn't need the answers. His chapter in my life had closed so completely that even the questions became irrelevant. What mattered was how far I'd come. One day, while grocery shopping, I ran into one of his old friends, someone I hadn't seen since the wedding. He looked shocked to see me happy, confident, glowing even, and after a few awkward pleasantries, he blurted, "Daniel's not doing well." For a moment, I just stared at him, waiting to see if guilt or sadness or anything resembling old feelings would rise, but nothing did, not even a flicker. "That's unfortunate," I said, and meant it in the most detached way possible, because his suffering wasn't my concern, his consequences weren't my burden, and his unhappiness wasn't my responsibility. The man stuttered, clearly taken aback, then added, "He thought you'd take him back." I laughed, actually laughed, right there between the cereal aisle and the canned soup. Not mocking, just amazed at how deeply he misunderstood who I had become. "He thought wrong," I said, and walked away feeling lighter than air. That night, as I cooked dinner in my little apartment, music playing softly in the background, I realized something incredible. I loved my own company, truly loved it. I danced while chopping vegetables, sang loudly and off-key, opened a bottle of wine just because I wanted to. And the joy I felt wasn't dependent on anyone else. It came from me. It was mine. And the more I embraced that, the more doors began to open. New friendships, new opportunities, new experiences. I took a solo trip to a nearby city, something I'd always wanted to do, but never dared because Daniel constantly needed reassurance, attention, validation. Walking through museums, exploring cafes, wandering through markets alone felt like reclaiming parts of myself I didn't even realize I'd lost. I was no longer living in reaction to someone else's choices. I was living in alignment with my own. It was during that trip, sitting at an outdoor cafe with a warm latte in hand, that I finally allowed myself to ask the question I'd been avoiding. Did I want love again someday? The answer surprised me, not because it was yes, but because it wasn't desperate or hopeful or scared. It was calm, peaceful. Yes, I wanted love someday, but not the kind I had with Daniel, not fractured, not conditional, not dependent on me sacrificing parts of myself. I wanted a love that felt like partnership, not punishment, a love that strengthened me, not suffocated me, a love that felt safe, honest, and mutual. And I knew I would find it, not because I needed it, but because I finally understood I deserved it. A few weeks later, something unexpected arrived in the mail, the final annulment papers, the legal closing of a story that emotionally ended the night I walked out. I didn't cry, I didn't shake, I didn't feel the slightest pull of nostalgia. Instead, I lit a candle, poured a glass of champagne, and signed the papers with a steady hand. When I sealed the envelope, it felt like sealing the past, firmly, finally, permanently. The next morning, I nailed it without hesitation, and as I dropped the envelope into the slot, a breeze brushed through my hair, warm and soft, like the universe whispering, "You did it." And I had. I had survived betrayal without letting it define me. I had walked away from a marriage that most people would have been too ashamed to end. I had rebuilt myself from ashes he set on fire. But most importantly, I had learned that my worth wasn't determined by a man's ability to stay loyal. It was determined by my ability to choose myself. And I chose myself every single day. Months later, as I sat on my balcony watching the sunset paint the sky in gold and rose, I realized something powerful. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't hurt. I wasn't grieving. I was free. Truly, deeply free. Betrayal didn't break me. It revealed me. And what it revealed was a woman strong enough to walk away, smart enough to see the truth, brave enough to start over, and powerful enough to rise higher than she ever thought possible. My story didn't end the day he cheated. It began the moment I found the strength to leave. And that is the version of me I carry into the world now. Fearless, grounded, unshakable. A woman reborn from betrayal into unstoppable fire. If you loved the story, make sure to like, share the video to your friends, and make sure to subscribe the channel.